Hey, Derek, this is your friend Jeff Garcia over here at Locked On Spurs and Ken's Five. Just want to congratulate you on your documentary. Looks like it's going to be a success. You're probably going to have to beat away the paparazzi chasing after you if you're walking around San Antonio. But nevertheless, congratulations.
Come on through if you want to. If you think you want to, come on through.
Well, you can always talk to me on the phone.
I'll call you. I'll talk to you a little later.
Yeah. Listen close. I'm Derrick Gervin, this my legacy talk. Not just points on the board, it's the miles that I walk. Early mornings in the dark, gym lights still off. While the city's still sleeping, I was paying that cost. Basketball gave me a voice, but discipline raised me. Game taught me patience, pressure couldn't faze me. Every scar on my knee was a chapter I wrote. Every miss turned fuel, every win gave hope. They see highlights, but they don't see the grind. Don't see the nights where belief fell behind. When the crowd ain't clapping and the phone don't ring, that's when character speaks louder than a championship ring. That's beyond the game, yeah, it's bigger than fame. I learned how to lead when nobody knew my name, how to show up on time, how to stand on my word, how to lose with respect, how to win still, humble still learn. I did it for the next one, watching from the stands, thinking maybe one day if I give it all I can, I'm proof the work talks. Back when you listen and purpose shows up, when ego goes missing. So if you hooping or dreaming or trying to find your way, understand the game don't owe you a play. You earn every minute, every rep, every chance. Life keeps scored by effort, not luck or advance. I'm Derrick Gervin, remember the name, but remember the lesson. More than the fame, it's my story, my legacy, written in sweat and pain. Inspire the next generation, yeah, beyond the game.
They asked me, did I know who Ray Scott was? And I couldn't help but start laughing.
Are you kidding? You're my life.
I told him, I love you to death. You're one of the best men I've ever met in my entire life, a genuine human being. And I just wanted to say hello to you today.
You know what? I thank you so much for that because, as you know, I follow you when you get involved. You don't do something every day. You do projects.
Thank you.
So I'm interested in your projects when you ask people to use their minds and think about things.
Thank you.
History remembers the stars. But basketball has always been built by men whose stories never made the headlines. Derrick Gervin grew up in Detroit, where survival came before celebration, and the game was more than a dream. He carried a famous name, but chose a harder road. From college gyms to overseas arenas, from being overlooked to being undeniable. His legacy isn't just measured in points or trophies. It's measured in resilience, in respect earned far from home, and in the lives he now shapes from the sidelines. This is not the story of who he was compared to. This is a story of who he became.
Growing up in Detroit, Detroit is one of the hard-nosed cities, one of the cities that always has, the highs and lows, most notably the lows lately. But as a kid in Detroit, describe how growing up in Detroit was not as a Gervin, just as Derrick.
Wow. Well,
For me, it was great. Even I go back to when I was a little kid. I was 2, 3, 4 years old, and back then everyone could walk the streets, walk the neighborhood, and everyone policed each other. It didn't have to be your parents that were disciplining you. Everybody in the neighborhood had a right to keep you in line, and I was one of those guys as a kid that needed to be kept in line. Sometimes people would do things that get under my skin. I said I was 3 or 4 years old, right? And I have to be honest about it. I was the type gritty, growing up in the inner city, right? So you had to stand your ground. So I was the type as a kid, and this is a true story. I remember a lady on our street bothering me. We were on Field Street, and the lady bothering me, or I felt she was bothering, and I remember telling her, "You better leave me alone." And so from that point on, people were surprised that Derrick was that kind of guy as a young person. So they would tell my mom that you have to keep a watch on your son. You have to watch Derrick. He's a very nice little kid, but when you're not around, if someone does something to cross him, he's going to get revenge. And his revenge at that time would be verbally. And so, growing up in the blue collar city, Detroit, Michigan, I always learned you had to stand your ground. And I was that way from a very young age. And that's what I remember from my childhood days, just standing my ground.
So those lessons you learned growing up, from a kid heading into, early teens and all that, what were those lessons for you? Like, was it, like you said, stand your ground, being from Detroit, blue collar city, you're kind of what the kids call today, clapping back at adults, obviously, making, some remarks and stuff. How did those lessons start for you growing up? Because eventually it takes you to a bigger picture later on in life.
Well, I grew up in a family. I've had 5 siblings. And so I was the youngest by 9 years. So even dealing with them, I felt I had to stand my ground. And you know how it could be sometimes with the big brothers bullying the little brother, the big sisters bullying the little brother. I was the kind I was going to let them let them know from the beginning that I'm not to be messed with. And that was also the same personality of Detroit, Michigan. You had to learn to stand up for yourself. There was no one going to be there. My mom was not going to be there for me at all times. My dad was not going to be there for me at all times. So today the term they use is man up. And I started manning up as a kid. And I'm glad that I did. Even today, I carry the same disposition. I'm not a guy that's going to mess with people, but I'm also a guy that's not going to be messed with. And that comes from being from a blue collar city. And when I talk about Detroit, I kind of get emotional. There is no place on this earth I'd rather be born. And I'm a diehard Detroiter to the day I die. It's taught me how to survive. And we used to have a saying, if you can survive in Detroit, you can survive anywhere. And those were the lessons I learned as a young kid, and I continue to let those lessons lead me through the rest of my life.
You bring up family and, the survival of the fittest, just in the family part, because you've got older brothers, older sister, the family aspect of siblings, how being the youngest of all of them, because for granted, like you said, they pick on you. They're going to try to make you tougher. Is that family environment close today as it was even at that time?
I believe today it's even closer because as you get older, you mature and you realize that tomorrow's not promised. And so now when I look at us all in our 60s and 70s, it takes me back to those days. We didn't have the same understanding that we have today. Back then, as a kid, you thought you were going to live forever. So, things went on in your life. If you might have had an incident with someone, you might make up down the line, and you might not make up down the line, right? But as I look at myself today as a 62-year-old, and I look at my family, and all of them are in their 70s, I know there are days that you can never get back. So we didn't understand that as children, right? We just lived day by day. What happens today? Hey, I'll see you tomorrow, right? We didn't have the same understanding that we do today. But when I look at my family, we were always close. And I have to tell you, being from the ghetto, my mom kept us in programs because, idle time is the devil's workshop. So she made sure during the summers when we're out of school to always keep us involved in positive programs. And as you're doing that, you're learning to strengthen yourself as an overall human being. And you have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. And that's what my mom was teaching. I used to wonder why sometimes she was hard on us, but she didn't want us to go astray. And we didn't really understand the messages at that time. All we knew that is mom had her strict rules. If she said be home at a certain time, we had to be home. When that street light started flickering, your butt better be on your way home. And we didn't understand why, and we never really asked why. All we knew that what mom said mattered. And we had dad, of course, but mom was the one that seemed to get bring the fear out of everyone. And sometimes it would be just with a look. Our mom didn't have to say much. You go to the grocery store, you already knew before you go to the grocery store, you better be on your best behavior. And if you're not, mom's going to give you a look. She might give you a, something like that. And from that point on, you better get on the straight and narrow and you better follow it. And as we got a little older, we started to understand why she was doing that. We're representing the family name, not even talking so much about mom, just representing my grandparents, my great-grandparents, all the way down the line. And that's what the last name Gervin stood for. And as I started getting older, I understood more what her purpose was. And she didn't have to explain it as we got older. But I thank my mom today. As you know, I lost her on August 7th, 2019, 2 days before her 89th birthday, 1 day after my grandma's birthday, August 6th. And to this day still, I think about mom, all the lessons that she instilled in us as children. And so you go back when you asked me about the Gervin family today, as you know, before we started the show, who did I call? Call my big brother, George Gervin. And you heard how proud he is of me as we continue to evolve in this world. So it goes all the way back to our young days. And my mom set the standard, and we're just trying to continue the standard here in 2025.
For parents' point of view, I know mom was a major impact in your life, as it is for a lot of kids. Like you said, dad was an impact as well for you too. On the mom aspect, what was that one big impact that she instilled in your heart to this day, even though, we know she passed away? What is that one impact she brought into your life that is going to go with you directly to the grave?
That failure, a lot of people say failure is not an option, but failure actually is an option. Because to be successful, you look at the people that have been successful throughout time, they had to fail at some point. And so that's what she taught us, that it's okay to make mistakes. No one's going to be perfect. And to make some, it depends on the mistakes. You don't go to jail. You don't get in trouble where you're no longer out in society. You're being controlled by other people. So she taught us that you go out and be able to make good decisions. I'm trying to teach you right now what's right from wrong. And as long as you know right decisions, how to correct your mistakes, you're going to have a successful life. And I don't mean to sound emotional, but I am, because without the lessons that she instilled in us early, who knows where I'll be today. So I'm thanking my mom from the bottom of my heart. I love her, Geraldine Gervin. You'll never be forgotten. And your son is here. I'm so proud to be your son. I'm so proud to be born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. And the biggest lesson, like I said, is failure is not always a bad option. And I hope kids are hearing that as well. People say failure isn't an option. It is. You have to fail to get on the path that you need to be on for success.
Knowing that mom passed away and the impact she's had on you, the recovery process. A lot of people ask, hey, have you been able to recover from something that big, that emotional in a lifetime? Have you ever been able to recover from it?
I was the caregiver, so you know more than other people know. I was there for the last year of her life, 365 days, 7 days a week. And it goes back to what I said earlier about the path that she, set us on. I had to recover because if I don't recover, I'm not being true to myself. I'm not being true to her, the lessons that she taught me. I'm not being true to my nieces and nephews, my brothers and sisters. I have to recover. If I don't recover, how can I set the tone for the younger ones that are coming up in my family, my great nephews, my great nieces? They have to learn that life goes on. It's not going to be an easy path. My life will never be the same without my mom. But my thing is to keep making her proud day after day. And to do that, you have to learn to move on. You don't forget, but you have to move on and you have to continue to strive to be the best person you can be. Today is Saturday. I'm so blessed to be alive today on December 20th. All I want to do is become a better person by December 21st, 2025. And that's the biggest lessons I learned from my mom.
Mom's definitely taught you a lot, especially growing up. And I like what you just said a little while ago about the impact, because you being the baby of the siblings, you are that, patriarch for the younger Gervins that are coming on up. So you're instilling in them what mom instilled in you. And I think that always portrays you as being the ideal person that you are right now, because not only are you helping the younger Gervins growing up, but it's also the impact in the community that we're going to get into later when it comes to kids. And speaking of the kids part, I got to ask you as a kid, when did basketball enter your life? Because I know at 2 or 3 years old, you were trying to dunk a ball or anything like that. But at some point, basketball had to say, you know what? I've got to come into your life and I've got to guide you on this path that your other siblings have been on. So when did basketball hit Derrick's life?
Well, as a 2-year-old, you don't even really know what basketball is. All you know is you see your brothers and sisters walking around with this big orange thing, and I don't know what it's about. But as I get to be 3, 4 years old, I started understanding. They used to come in with their uniforms on as they come in from practice.
Mm-hmm.
I was always a sponge. I'll get to that later, but my granddad used to call me walkie-talkie because I'm the kind that's going to ask questions. And I sit back and I observe. So around 4 years old, I started carrying my basketball around with me everywhere I went. Outside, I started learning, practicing dribbling, and it became a part of my body.
Mm-hmm.
They have pictures of me. I would have to find some of the pictures. They have me when I go to sleep. I lay on the carpet, on the floor, and I'm sleeping. What's right in my arm right here? My basketball.
Yeah.
This thing right here. And I started loving the game as a youngster. That's all I knew. My sisters were very studious, and my brothers were very studious when it came to that round basketball. And so, I would say 4 years old is where I really started understanding what the game was about and started studying the game religiously. And, I'm the type guy going to ask questions. Why does this ball bounce this way? Why does that basket the size that it is? I'm one of those guys. So, the basketball started playing a big impact in my life from the time when I'll say, about 4 years old.